I'm not wearing glasses, so let's just hope that I look good. Yeah. Hi, my name is Jusdani, and this is gonna be a story time video of how I passed my board exams. Last October 29 to 30, I took my board licensure examination for psychometricians. I found out last Friday that I did not only pass the boards, I made it also to the list of top-notchers. It feels so surreal saying that because I still can't believe it, but I checked it in the website, I verified my scores, and yeah, I'm one of the top-notchers. I ranked 8th. This video is going to be about how I prepared, what I did. I have to mention before I begin that no, I did not graduate with Latin honors. In fact, I failed 2 subjects in college, organic chemistry, like in lab. Also, no, I was not a consistent Dean's Lister. I only made it to Dean's List once, and that was during 4th year first sem. 4th year first sem is the easiest sem, so I don't really consider it an achievement. And no, I did not enroll in a review center. I relied on my own notes, my textbooks, and even the review material shared to me by friends. So I'm so very grateful to everyone who reached out to me and helped me, because if it weren't for these people, I wouldn't have made it. I graduated last June. I gave myself a 1-month break before I would begin reviewing. So I was expected to start by July. July, August, September, October would be 4 months to prepare. Considering that the board exam has 4 subjects, I could allot 1 month for it. Tip number 1 is to have a study schedule. I listed down all the topics that I had to review, and I based it on the table of contents of all my books. I even wrote it down here in my bullet journal. As you can see, this is for theories of personality, abnormal psychology, industrial psychology, and the hardest subject, psychological assessment. It was listing down the topics that gave me an idea of how much I have to study, and it was a way for me to really organize everything. And because I'm a planner girl, no, I'm not a Virgo, I listed down the things that I would have to study for a week. The goal at the beginning of July was to cover 2 chapters a day, at least 2 chapters, and that was very convenient for me because I have a really short attention span and I easily get distracted. Redundant, but you get my point. At first it was good, things were going well, but then eventually I lost momentum and I wasn't able to follow my initial review schedule. Another tip is to adjust your schedule if needed. For example, you scheduled like 2 chapters in a day, right? But something happened, like something came up. Adjust it accordingly. Don't feel bad about not being able to review enough in a day. Just make sure that you make up for it the next day. That was my mindset. Every time I would feel bad for not being able to review something, I would just make up for it the next day. Because I was like, there's always tomorrow. And I made sure that when tomorrow came, I would actually make up for it and really study. Apart from making your study schedule is to know when your peak hours are. For me, I'm a very nocturnal person. I'm most productive at night. I start becoming productive by 8 or 9 p.m. So that's 8 p.m. to 1 in the morning. That was the best time for me to study. Like even if I would wake up at like, let's say 10 or 11 a.m., I would try to read from 1 to 6 p.m. I would just try to read while browsing social media, tagging my friends in memes, doing whatever. At night, that was when I would study seriously. I feel like knowing exactly when you're most productive can help you make the most out of your days. The next tip that I have is study your favorite subject first. This was my way of motivating myself. Out of all the 4 subjects, the subject that I enjoyed the most is theories of personality. It's my favorite subject. It's pretty much the foundation of psychology because it's all the theories and everything. I started with theories of personality, and just read this book. It has everything from the lives of the theorists to everything else that you need to know about them. Okay, when it comes to my study routine, it took me a while before I figured out the study technique that really worked for me. I literally tried as many techniques as I could. Yellow pads, yeah, like I would write it down. I really did try to be creative with the way that I wrote my notes. Like I said, I have a short attention span, and being fancy with my notes helped me focus more. It helped me concentrate more. It's very time consuming. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do this. Also here, this was at the beginning of July when I tried studying abnormal psychology first, another favorite subject of mine. As you can see, there's so much effort put into my notes, but then I realized, oh, I have like 9 categories of mental illnesses to study. I won't be able to do this for everything. I was like, okay, time to give up on it, even if it's aesthetically pleasing. Next was, I went for index cards. Here is theories of personality, and I just wrote down like a summary. Here's Sigmund Freud, psychoanalysis. I just wrote down all the important terms, and while reading the book, I made sure that I understood these terms before writing them down here. But again, I was too lazy. Another technique that I did was I wrote down an outline of the chapter. I would just write the important terms and concepts in just black pen, because I was like, I'm too lazy to use colored pens at this point. And the study technique that really worked for me and really helped me was writing my notes. This is the notebook that I used from September to October. Luckily, by September, I had already finished all 4 books, all 4 subjects, and all I had to do was give myself a refresher. I used this notebook to list down outlines of the chapters that I had to study. So I started with theories of personality. Theories of personality, I'm not sure if it's focused. I would just write all the important information that I had to remember, be it a concept or a definition. This was what I did from September to October. I did get tired. Like for TOP, it took me 2 weeks to accomplish this, or just an entire week. I actually started this at the beginning of October. So October, I was like, okay, time to reread Theories of Personality. This was what happened. I studied TOP for a week. Like, I reread the chapters in a week, and I was like, what? Oh my god. In that moment, I thought I was fucked, but thank god I wasn't. After studying TOP, I went for industrial psychology. I'm just gonna write everything down in the description box below. Wow, YouTuber. It was very hard for me to study industrial psychology because I don't like the subject at all, but I pulled through. I finished it in about 3 days. I sped things up. Like for industrial psychology, I was like, I really can't focus much on this, so I'm just gonna scan the whole book. I gave myself like 4 chapters a day. That was my goal for industrial psychology. I wouldn't recommend it. It's my lowest score. But yeah. After industrial psychology, to keep myself motivated, I studied abnormal psychology. It's another favorite subject of mine, and I really enjoyed it. So I just kept writing my notes here. I studied psychological assessment last, and at that point I was really panicking because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't understand the statistics part of psych assessment. I was just really worried. Man, I actually allotted an entire day to study just the statistics. I'm very arithmetically challenged. If you give me numbers, my brain shuts down. I'm so grateful for my professor in psych statistics. Sir Ryan, if you're watching this, I owe you my life. As you can see, I ran out of ink. Like, I finished about 3 ball pens for this whole notebook. At this point, I was very lazy to write things down for psych ass, and I just like read the book. Here's another tip. I claimed it. To keep myself sane, I wrote this days before the board exam. I don't know if it focuses, but it's my name. I've always been that ambitious deep inside. I never really admitted it to anyone. I was scared of writing down my name with the name extension RPM because I was like, what if I'm jinxing it? What if after all these months spent reviewing, I just end up failing, you know? I was really humbled. I feel like that's a term. I was so humbled. So I just wrote it down and I put it on the mirror of my drawer where I usually study. I would just look at it every time I would feel discouraged. Another study technique that I used is talking to myself. Like, I would really talk to myself. Like, I'd look in the mirror and I'd explain what schizophrenia is, or the difference between schizophreniform disorder and delusional disorder. It was explaining them verbally and vocalizing my understanding of the topics that really helped me retain all the information that I needed to study. And this was really helpful because I'm always alone and I was just really desperate. So I would just start talking to myself. This is my favorite tip and probably the weirdest one, but allow yourself to have down days. Allow yourself at least one day in a week to just break down and cry and indulge in whatever things you want to do. I do believe that all work and no play makes Maria a dumb girl. So whenever I felt extremely tired, I wouldn't force myself to study. I would just probably watch BoJack Horseman, or I'd listen to music, and I just lie down and allow myself to overthink the whole thing and be like, what if I fail? What if things don't work out? Because I think that a good amount of negativity can push you forward. I am a very optimistic person, but I do believe that if you're just optimistic 100% of the time, this compromises your performance. Like, instead of giving your 100%, when you're too optimistic, you just end up giving 50%. Another tip that I could give is to have a solid support system. One of my favorite theorists is Carl Rogers, and his theory says that in order for someone to feel important, or in order for them to develop good self-esteem, they would have to be given unconditional positive regard. And this is loving a person and accepting a person regardless of who they are. I found this support system in my college friends, my med school friends, my family, and strangers from the internet. Whenever I'd feel upset, I just open up to my friends. In fact, my friends and I who took the board exam had this group chat where we did not only provide each other updates for the boards, we also would check on each other and ask each other how we're doing, because, you know, our mental health is also important. It's not just about studying and doing your best. Another thing is to believe in yourself. Like I said, it's so hard to claim it because, you know, you're thinking like, what if after all this time I'm not meant for it, or it's not for me. The worry is normal, but let your fear motivate you. Let your fear push you forward. Let your fear get things done. This was what I learned the most during my review. I was very worried actually about failing because I was like, I'm not enrolled in a review center. I don't have the materials that all my other friends in review centers have. I don't know. I was just really worried and overthinking everything. It's also important to evaluate your fears. Why am I afraid? Is this fear realistic, or is it just an exaggeration of all my worries? It's when you answer these questions that you figure out how much you're overthinking. When you are aware of how worried you are, it provides you a good perspective of what you need to do. When I realized that I was afraid of failure, I was afraid of embarrassing myself, I just thought to myself, I can retake this board exam next year. To hell with what other people think about me. Everyone's gonna have an opinion about me, whatever I do. So might as well make up for it next year in case I fail. I had backup plans. I had everything else planned out. It was so out of character because I'm a very spontaneous person when it comes to studying. So this board exam preparation really changed me. And last but not the least, Your rest days are not for doing nothing. You at least get something done during your rest days. On my normal days, like my real serious review days, I would spend hours studying, and even reached a point where I studied from 8 p.m. to 5 in the morning because I was really worried and I had a short attention span and I was so undisciplined. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it, but that's what I did. During your rest days, what I did was I would, for example, watch a series, watch a movie, hang out with friends, and then at night, I would just do some light reading. For me, it was to keep my momentum. If I just allow myself to be completely lazy on a weekend, it would just continue for the rest of the week. And I did not want that to happen. I did not want to sabotage myself like that. I told myself, okay, during your rest days, do whatever the heck you want, but make sure at the end of the day, you study something. You get to read something. I always had in my phone, like, my PDFs, the PowerPoints that my professors provided me. I just made sure that during commute or whenever I had nothing to do, I would just read. That was the most important thing for me. By the way, these were my reference books. For Theories of Personality, I used Feist. This is an old edition. I bought this from Ate Camille, one of the admins of Psychometricians PH. I read this twice. Psychological Assessment, I used Cohen. I think this is the latest edition, and Cohen is very comprehensive. Apart from Cohen, I also used Kaplan. I have a PDF of Kaplan, and I found Kaplan's diagrams more understandable and easier to digest. For Abnormal Psychology, I also used two books. One is Duran. I just browsed through it, but what I really used was Butcher. It's the 16th edition. And for Industrial Psychology, I used a PDF. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I think it was Ahmad. Yeah. So this box contains like everything that I reviewed. A lot of papers. I'm so sorry, Mother Nature, but I really had to. This box contains all the other review materials that I have, and they're just all paper. I was really worried because I was very disorganized in returning the papers, so I was like, what if I fail? I would have to reorganize everything. But luckily, I passed. What really matters for me is that you make the most out of your days, and I do believe in the saying that success is the result of small efforts done day in and day out. It always starts with baby steps. I tell this to all my friends whenever they want to embark on something big or whenever they want to achieve a goal. Start with baby steps. It may be very frustrating, especially if you're an overachiever, to like do baby steps every single day because it's like nothing's happening. But you have to trust the process. This sounds very normie, but trust the process, have faith in yourself, and exert effort. These are all the things that I did, and I'm just so thankful that all my hard work paid off. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I hope you leave this channel feeling more inspired or more encouraged to study. Please don't give up on your dreams. Just believe that you were destined for great things, because that's what I believe in. If you want to invite me at your school to speak about mental health or even feminism or self-confidence and self-esteem, feel free to drop me an email at perksofjustine@gmail.com. Till next time. Bye.